First real estate. Lagos State, Chief Minister for Remi Tinubu, the First Lady, First Real Estate, Ministry Government, the representative of the Commission for Education, the Secretary and the representative heads of the departments of students, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome you to this program. That is the relaunch of the non-fiscal schools in the state. Masters to get control of the school is one that is central to the thinking of any government that is alive to responsibilities. This is an age where there is a lot of fear about what tomorrow will bring, given the rate at which people want to draw. Today, there is no other way to combat this than to start where it matters most. And it is in our schools that it matters most what we do. And without wasting our time further, I'd like that we commit this program to the hand of the Almighty, and would like to invite Dr. Oji Olomolen to please lead us in the opening prayer.
Your Excellency, the First Lady of Lagos State, Chief Mrs. Remi Tinubu, her amiable special guest, the First Lady of Cross River State, Mrs. G, members of the State Executive Council here present, honorable member of the House of Representatives, Committee on Health here present, the wife of the Honorable Commissioner of Health for Lagos State, Mrs. Secretary to the State Government, Head of Service, Permanent Secretary here present, Directors here present, distinguished guests, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, members of the press. I wish to welcome you all to this very important program on the relaunching of drug-free club in secondary schools in Lagos State. The Lagos State Drug Abuse Control Committee has her first launching of this club in the Ikorodu local government a little over a year ago, that is June 1998. It is, however, the desire of my committee not to relent in our efforts as continually educating and motivating every member of the society, especially youth, on the need to lead drug-free life. You will agree with me that the most vulnerable group, which is easily lured into bad influences, still remains the young people in the society. Incidentally, among these are the future leaders of the nation. It is in view of this important position with this group, or the important position which this group occupies in the society, that the launching of the drug-free clubs becomes relevant. This committee is determined to continually sustain the tempo of campaigning against drug misuse and abuse and illicit drug trafficking in all its ramifications. Today, all over the world. Hence, the advent of this program and others to come on a monthly basis directed towards different audiences for the rest of the year. I wish also to say that with the permission of the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Dr. Lete Piton, it has been possible to incorporate into today's program. At the appropriate time, the book titled The Great Epidemic, written by an insider of our target audience, will be formally launched. I would like to ask everybody present here today to appear under the peer group syndrome. A drug-free society is a healthy, vibrant, happy, and relaxed heritage of our developing state. Once again, I happily welcome you all to this very interesting and educative session with the Drug Abuse Control Committee. God bless you all, and thank you for coming.
Members of the Lagos State Executive Council present, colleagues, students in the school, former colleagues. Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great to this month's unique program of the relaunching of the drug-free club in secondary schools in Lagos State. As a fulfillment of the desire of the Lagos State Drug Abuse Control Committee, which is interministerial, the tempo of sustaining campaigns against drug abuse and misuse is here being heightened. This particular program, designed for school children, is timely to enable these students grow up into useful adolescents and adults in a society that rightly needs direction. The age bracket of these students is the most vulnerable for a lot of influences and layering into getting involved in drug problems. This drug-free club was first launched, as you had earlier heard, as the grand finale program of the United Nations Anti-Drug Day in 1998 at Tinubu. The benefits of joining and participating in the activities of such clubs cannot be overemphasized. Therefore, I hereby wish to appeal to all principals to please form such clubs in all their schools. Also today, there will be a book launch on the book Christians, The Great Epidemic, which is an educative and morally inspiring text on drug abuse. It has been written by a youth who has been a living witness to the peer group's effect on secondary school students in the abuse of drugs. He has been able to link drug abuse to crime, especially violent cultism in the tertiary institutions. In recent times, the society has witnessed the worrying problems associated with cultism. It is sad
that despite the laws enacted by the federal government, the number of Nigerians arrested for drug offenses both within and outside the country is on the increase. The most disturbing aspect is that most of the culprits are adolescents and young adults who, after having wasted their youthfulness, are addicted for life and eventually die prematurely. The untoward consequences of drug abuse are, however, too many to be listed here. Needless to say, is the fact that a significant number of deaths from accidents and violent crimes are traced to the activities of persons under the influence of drugs. Many homes have been broken, dreams shattered, and much useful manpower wasted as addicts struggle to sustain their habits. In the process, they become a burden to themselves and their families, and naturally, a burden to society at large. The activities of drug traffickers are also known to have posed serious problems to legitimate organizations and governments worldwide. Definitely, no responsible government will watch while this unwholesome situation persists. Certainly, the Lagos State government will not watch and allow it to go on. It is for this reason that my ministry, as the principal partner, together with collaborating ministries such as education, information, youth, sports and social development, and the Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation Bureau, including the NDLEA, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, continually wage war against drug abuse and illicit drug trafficking. I would like to advise the youth, the young adults of our society, to avail themselves of the opportunities offered by all these bodies involved in their education to continue leading drug-free lifestyles. Let us always remember that to keep Nigeria drug-free is a task that must be done by all. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed my pleasure to welcome you all to this occasion. Thank you and God bless.
Also, that majority of patients admitted into mental health institutions for drug-related problems fall between ages 20-30 brackets. Findings from NDLEA drug data collection and research between 1991 and 1997 have clearly shown that youths between the ages of 16 and 35 are more involved in drug-related problems than any other groups within the society. According to World Health Organization, the rates of drug abuse are higher among adolescents and youths than among adults. More and more young people are using a greater variety of psychoactive substances and at younger ages than ever before. The implication of these findings is that youths are exposed to dangers of drug abuse in their formative years. This situation seriously calls for greater concern, as this could adversely affect the future of our nation. In order to ensure a better understanding of this lecture, let us examine the meanings of drug use and abuse. Drug use may refer to taking of a drug either licitly or illicitly. The use of socially acceptable substances like alcohol, tobacco, coffee implies that a person is at liberty to use a substance without legal prohibition. But the use of illegal substances such as cannabis, amphetamine, heroin, cocaine, and so on is prohibited or controlled by law. The users of such a substance may be liable for prosecution for possession or use of such substances according to the law of the land. However, the use of some of such substances may be permitted for medical or scientific purposes only. On the other hand, drug abuse is a state characterized by the use of drugs without medical justification, or when it is excessively used, as the case with socially acceptable drugs like cigarette or alcohol. or the use of drugs that are legally prohibited, or the use of drugs on one's own initiative rather than on the basis of professional advice, that is through self-medication. In this regard, any kind of drug is capable of being abused, but certain drugs have the capacity to induce the user in the user a strong habit that makes further use difficult to avoid. Such drugs possess habit-forming properties which make the user to depend on them. They are called psychoactive drugs. They affect behavior, mood, and thought process of an individual. The process of drug abuse often starts with experimentation to a stage of more frequent use and later obsession. The climax of the process is the development of drug dependence, often characterized by compulsive desire for the drug, tendency to increase the amount of drug use so as to feel the desired effect, and the development of psychological and or physical dependence. This is the stage when the individual finds it difficult to live a normal life without his or her dose of a drug. Therefore, the abuse of psychoactive drugs over time leads to dependence and eventually death. Among the psychoactive drugs commonly abused by adolescents and youths are alcohol, beer, wine, spirits, hot drinks. We have lots of them around us. Ogogoro, pitol, brokutu, all of these can be abused. Even tobacco, any kind of cigarette, cannabis, Indian hemp, marijuana, grass, all the names we call it. Other drugs include amphetamine and its derivatives, ephedrine, sedative drugs like Valium, Lexotan, Magras, Libron, Avitan, mild central nervous system stimulants like Kolanut, coffee, and tea that we take every morning. Inhalants such as aerosol, rubber solution, petrol, paint thinner, and so on, while cocaine and heroin and some of the other ones that are becoming very rampant with our youth today. There are certain predisposing factors that make our youth to get into drugs. Let's take a look at some of them. Adolescents and youth may use drugs for a number of reasons. Some of the factors that have been consistently responsible for drug use among youth are curiosity and experimentation. Because if you are not there to explain that this thing is harmful, one of us smokes cigarette, before you know, the other members begin to smoke. Broken homes and lack of parental attention. Emotional and psychosocial stresses such as anxiety, frustration, and alienation, particularly among young people who have difficulty in finding employment. Parental drug subculture. As you sit in your house to drink a bottle of beer every evening, the little child there watching gets it into the system that this is something good to use. As that child grows up, if it is a persistent habit in the house, they are more prone to taking alcohol, and they can get on to other drugs. Desire to perform well in school by some of our students. The need for excitement, to be happy when they are bored. And this is where our rich parents are coming. The child asks for anything and gets it. You are never there to explain anything to the child. And so, what is there to do? They are not allowed to do anything, not to even clean the house. So, they jump into things that will keep them going. Availability of psychoactive drugs within the homes. Physical illness. There are certain people that are used to that are treated with painkillers, those who have serious pains in the body. Some of these contain properties that can be addictive, that can get somebody involved in drugs. Influence of advertisement. There is a popular one now, Feel the Action or something. You can get one hooked on that brand of drug. No matter what reasons the youth might have for using drugs, one basic fact to know is that drugs will not help them out of their problems. Rather, it will create more problems and misery for them at the end. By using drugs, the health, education, family relations, and social life of the youth will be greatly at risk. Let's take a look at some of the problems that the use of drugs or abuse can create. Drug abuse and its-related problems pose a great threat to the health, well-being and survival of adolescents and youths. These problems manifest in the form of physical, psychological and social complications. These physical complications include damage to the vital organs of the body such as the brain, the liver, kidney, pancreas, due to prolonged use of drugs. Youths who are hooked on drugs usually suffer from hypertension, heart failure, excessive heartbeat, and coma. The use of drugs by youths can threaten their normal intellectual development, thereby leading to memory impairment, impaired judgment, and cognitive development malfunction. Prolonged use of drugs by male youths can damage their reproductive organs, thereby making them impotent or sterile for life, while females can equally get infertile. Psychologically, youths that are dependent on drugs suffer from sleeplessness and sleep disturbances, anxiety, nervousness, craving, desire, tolerance, and depression. There is also personality disintegration, loss of confidence, and loss of self-esteem as a drug-dependent youths are hardly sure of themselves. At the social level, the effects of drug abuse become very obvious and grave. As a result of drug abuse, youths in school become involved in delinquent acts such as truancy, absenteeism, pilfering, cheating, stealing, dishonesty, and cultism in some cases. They are always in constant clash with the law or law enforcement agents. They also get out of control, show apathy towards education, and then we have dwindling academic performance and eventually drop out from school. In most cases, drug-dependent youths engage in criminal activities such as armed robbery, rape, manslaughter, murder, kidnapping, burglary. Once you are addicted to the drug, you wake up thinking about your fix, and you go to bed thinking about your fix. So once you have exhausted all the avenues of money to procure drugs, the final recourse is crime. First, the household goods will disappear and take them and sell. And once you graduate from that, you move to the outside world. That's why we have most of the violent crimes we have today. Moreover, we have AIDS. For the girls, once the money is not there, the next available thing is prostitution. And because you are not in your normal senses, you are prone to the acquired immune syndrome disease. Moreover, drug-dependent youths may themselves be used as thugs and hired assassins by politicians, criminals, and undesirable elements in the community. Rather than being an asset, these youths turn out a liability to themselves, their family, and the society at large. Since the youths are the assets of the nation, drug use and abuse among them often lead to ill health of labor force, which will reduce our overall productivity and economic growth, thereby leading to economic loss to the nation. From whichever angle we may look at it, drug abuse among youths is a calamity to the nation as a whole. The way out of this problem There is no doubt that youth constitute the assets of the nation, and any nation that allows our youth to be ruined by drugs is no nation. In view of the pivot role of the youth stand to play in nation building, efforts should be made to curb the incidence of drug abuse among them. Some of the measures that can minimize or eradicate drug use among youth include aggressive public enlightenment programs, such as the one we are having today. Youths need to be sensitized to the inherent dangers of drug abuse by providing them factual information on habit-forming drugs and their consequences. Such awareness programs can take different forms through television, radio, newspaper, talk shows, anti-drug messages that can counter the influence of advertisement of some drugs, particularly alcohol and tobacco. Some of these messages can come in posters, handbills, billboards, car stickers that can easily fly around. Another measure is through preventive drug education in our schools. This is aimed at equipping the youth in schools with life skills that will engage them to resist pressure and temptation to use drugs, as well as live drug-free lifestyles. Out-of-school youths and the general public can also be given drug education through workshops, seminars, lectures, and symposia at different places. The goal of drug education is to promote appropriate behavior that will enhance the health and well-being of our youth and the general public. Setting up of drug-free clubs, as we are doing today, will go a long way in disseminating information. Youths, either in schools or out of school, should be encouraged to set up drug-free clubs or join drug-free clubs in their schools or localities. The objective of such clubs include the promotion of healthy alternative activities to drug involvement by youth and to increase their understanding of drugs and drug-related problems. Counseling of our drug-dependent youths. The goal of this strategy is to stop youths that are already using drugs, to make them realize the dangers of continuous drug use and the need to live healthy lifestyles. Therefore, efforts should be made to set up counseling centers in schools, youth centers, recreational centers, and religious settings where youths can be appropriately counseled on drugs and life-threatening problems. Treatment and rehabilitation and social reintegration into the society for those who have been counseled out of drugs. Youths who are seriously hooked on drugs need to be referred for treatment, rehabilitation, and social reintegration. This is necessary so as to prevent relapse and ensure good welfare of treated addicts. In doing this, community support as well as aftercare services will be required so as to facilitate easy reintegration of drug-dependent youths into the society. This is necessary because of our culture. Once anybody is involved in drugs, we tend to push them away. The drug problem among youth will be effectively tackled if the youth themselves are involved in preventive programs. The youth must always be made to speak out to their peers. Youth need to educate their parents on the inherent dangers of drugs, because the language that they speak oftentimes differ from the language the adults use. The youth should also always get themselves involved in anti-drug activities aimed at increasing the level of awareness of their circles. Youth must always maintain sound personal health without drugs. They should endeavor not to experiment with drugs, avoid addiction. We should encourage them to say no to drugs and get drug-free life. In conclusion, drug abuse poses a serious threat to the health and lives of both the young and the old in the society. Therefore, we should enjoy the youth to live a healthy lifestyle void of drugs, and to join hands in our crusade against drug abuse and illicit trafficking. Youth are the future of this nation and should not toy with psychoactive drugs so that they will not be hooked on drugs, rather should concentrate on things that will be beneficial to the society. And therefore, I wish to challenge the visiting of our guest, the first lady, to at least call us through the PAC of your state to come and do this, because this is the only way we can solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I am sure we have a what else have questions time that I will watch later. I like to make the broadcast of the positive university to also make this recognition. I have been told that she is accompanied by Mrs. Remi Tinubu and also Chief Mrs. Castro. I also realized that while I was doing the introduction, I failed to mention the wives of the chairman of local government. I am sorry for the oversight. It's not deliberate. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the launching of the drug-free club by Chief Mrs. Remi Tinubu.
Invited guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, I feel highly honored and privileged to be with you this morning on the occasion of relaunching of drug-free club in secondary schools in Lagos State. I must commend the State Drug Abuse Control Committee in their effort aimed at engaging our youth in highly productive activities and enhancing learning. The laudable aims and objectives of the drug-free club, I am informed, include the following. 1. To prevent use and sale of illegal drugs in schools. To plan and organize activities that will enhance learning and promote drug-free lifestyles in schools. And 3, to equip members with necessary skills that will enable them resist pressure that may predispose one to drug usage. Drug abuse and particularly drug trafficking have been identified as serious social problems with the attendant ill effects which have permeated the lives of our youth. Today, sizable number of students in both secondary schools and tertiary institutions engage in drug abuse and other antisocial activities such as cultism, examination malpractices, among others. The resultant effect is that some of our youth who are potential future leaders have ruined their careers by the use of hard drugs, with some of them ending in psychiatric hospitals. I wish to support the crusade against drug abuse in schools and among our youth by calling on all parents, guardians, principals, head teachers, and indeed adults in general to continue to play good role models in molding the character of our youth. You have all the social responsibilities to build the man and the community. Parental care goes beyond the provision of money, food, and clothing for the children. It entails the determination to make them successful and be useful not only to themselves but to the nation at large. I also enjoin teachers in the state school system to be very dedicated in carrying out their assignments and to shun avarice. They should endeavor to give their best to the students in their care. I have no doubt that the state government will continue to provide necessary facilities within the limits of its resources for both teachers and students in order to improve the overall well-being of the school communities. distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot end this speech without having a word for our students. As youth, you must abhor any form of social misdemeanor such as drug abuse, truancy, cultism, examination malpractices, and other social ills that could tarnish the image of their schools and indeed their families. As youth, you must wary of bad acquaintances both at home and school. I am enjoining you to be good ambassadors of your schools and families and make use of talents and abilities with which you are endowed. Let me, at this juncture, commend the initiatives and congratulate the principal, staff, and pioneering members of the club in secondary schools in the state. It is my fervent hope that the club will be sustained and nurtured well to achieve its noble objectives, and that very soon more schools would establish the club. My dear students, I implore you all to make your watchword no to drugs as we approach the new millennium. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor and privilege to formally relaunch the Drug-Free Club in secondary school. In secondary school system of Lagos State, and with the hope that a new era is to open to all our students and all youth. Thank you for your attention, and God bless.
Gentlemen, Secondary School, K2. Ikeja Grammar School, Oshogi. Jenila's College, Agigi. Abeson High School, Abeson. Maryland Comprehensive High School. Please, as I call you, just step forward. Ikotu Comprehensive College. United Christian Secondary School, Apapa. Oshodi Secondary School, Olodi, Apapa. Bolade Grammar School, Oshodi. Government College, Ikotu. Randall Secondary School, Apapa. Topmost International School, Maryland. Ibobi College, Yaba. Palom High School, Ikoyi. Please make it snappy. Victoria Island Secondary School, Victoria Island. KKI School, Agigi. Lagos Baptist Secondary School, Agigi. Reagan Memorial Baptist Girls Secondary School, Yaba. And Saruddin College, Isolo. Baptist Academy, Obaniko. St. Joseph Boys Secondary School, Surrey. St. Joseph Boys Secondary School. Awori Ajeromi Grammar School, Agboju. Bednar Grammar School, Ijayi. Immaculate Heart Comprehensive High School, Maryland. Baptist High School, Obanikoro. Ileopeju College, Ileopeju. Amu Ward of the High School, 92. State High School, Alimosho. And last but not the least, Stadium Grammar School, Gigi. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
My personal experience and how to quit drug. Now, introduction. I am Barrister Fumi Adejumbo. I'm the National Coordinator of Grassroots Campaign for Drug Free. Grassroots Campaign for Drug Free, all nationwide. Now, my song. My usual song whenever we have a particular drug abuse seminar is this. What's gonna be, gonna be? What's gonna be, gonna be? What's gonna be, gonna be? I have choose to be drug free. What's gonna be, gonna be? What's gonna be, gonna be? What's gonna be, gonna be? I have choose to be drug free. What about you? What's gonna be, gonna be? What's be? Thank you very much. Now, my personal experience. I started taking drugs as a young boy at my primary 6. When we say, so I started taking cigarettes. And when I got to secondary school, unfortunately, I was living in the same room with two other gentlemen who were sportsmen. They were footballers. And I never knew they are into India hemp. So each time they wake up early in the morning as well as 5 o'clock for practice. And before they go, they will roll their usual things and take it. Then one morning, I just discovered their usual things, and they introduced me to it, and I tasted it, and well, ignorantly, I felt it was good for me. So I started taking it, and but thank God, I did not go too long before I got myself sick of the hook of that drug. So I thank God for my life that even before I got out of secondary school, I was able to get off the hook. Now, that is my personal experience. But one thing I want to bring out here is this. I started taking the drug for I have two cogent points that I want to bring out. One, I started taking this drug as somebody who does not know actually the consequence of drug abuse. You know, I was ignorant of the consequence. So I just felt it is the normal thing. Like most of you here, you see, when you feel that this is just a usual thing, this is just one of those things, you started taking it. But you will never be aware of the consequence until you get hooked. So I started taking it because I was ignorant of the consequence. Then another point I want to bring out is that you see, most people that take into drugs, they take into it because of peer groups. Because you know they are usually influenced by friends, peers, neighbors. So I took into it because of peer group. If I had not mixed with those boys, I wouldn't have taken to it. So those are the two cogent points. But on the first point, when I got hooked of drugs, I sat down myself, I ruminated on it, And I said, many of the youth today, they take into drug because of ignorance of the consequence thereof. And now I felt the need or the importance that I should go out and carry out enlightenment of campaign on the consequences of drug abuse. And that was why I started my club. I started as Nigerian, under the name of Nigerian Student Drug-Free Society. Then when I graduated, I decided to make a nationwide club, and we, with the name Anti-Grassroots Campaign for Drug-Free. And I want to say that our empathy and our target audience in all our campaigns has been the people at the grassroots level. And I have my reason for that, especially the youth. The reason is that the grassroots people are the common victims of drug abuse. I want you to I want you to reason along with me. Even the so-called drug barons, they use the grassroots people to carry out their nefarious activities. And that's why we have decided that we are going to target our programs on the grassroots people, and especially the youth at the grassroots level. And I would say that we have the convincement that if the youth of Nigeria can be drug-free, then the future of Nigeria will be guaranteed. And the reason is that the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. Now, without wasting much time, I want to just give us some hints on how we can quit drug abuse. Now, the first thing is that you have to, if you are into drug and you want to quit, the first thing is that you must take conscious, active, positive mental efforts. You sit down and consider the very reason why you are taking that drug. Now, there's a proverb that a problem discovered is already half solved. That's when you discover the reason of why you are into drugs, you have already solved that problem of rehabilitation. That is the first step. Then the second step is that you have to make up your mind to leave that drug. And this must be coupled with self-determination, self-discipline, conscious and voluntary effort to actually pull out of it. That is the second thing. Then the third thing is that you have to reinforce your determination with a particular thing. For example, you can write on a plain paper and paste beside maybe your table that I want to quit this drug because it will affect my education. You can just write it there. You, as a student, you can write that. Some other person can write, I want to quit drug because it will affect my lungs and some other reason. Just put it there and paste it beside your table. Anytime you feel like taking drug, when you read it, I want to quit this drug because it will affect my education. It will help you. And then finally, while you are trying to rehabilitate yourself, you have a lot of temptations coming across you. For example, you may be having feeling some dry throat, dryness in your throat, and then that is because that thing is inviting you to take that drug again. Well, you can resolve this by taking it to sip of water. Anytime you have that, you sip your water, and I believe it will help you. Then another temptation is that you may be having you may have to throw away all those things that reminds you of that drug. There are some drugs that when there are some drugs you take, you have ashtray. There are some drugs that are in packets, like cigarettes now, it's in packets. If you see how the packets around you, each time you see it, it will remind you. There are some drugs, you even have a particular book about it, where you read from time to time. or maybe some drugs that you place on ashtrays. You have to throw away all these things so that you will not be reminded of that particular thing. Then another thing, you have to, for example, if you are a smoker or you are into India hemp, you have a particular joint where you normally go to take it. You know, you have to help yourself by avoiding that particular route. Because each time you go along that route, you see that particular place, you may be invited or you may be tempted to go inside that place. So you can avoid that particular road. But during that period that you are rehabilitating yourself. Then another thing, and the most important, is that you have to avoid friends that can encourage you to take that particular drug. Because like I said earlier, peer group is very, very influential in this in drug taking. So if you know that this and these are friends that will bring you back to it, you have to avoid it. God bless you.
Distinguished members of the high table, prominent people in the audience, members of the press, my fellow students, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm here to comment on the book, The Great Epidemic. And talking about The Great Epidemic, which is a book specifically written on substance abuse, all I want to do is to give you an insight into it. Now, what is my own? Why do I have to do that? Well, first and foremost, in the last 18 years, I've been teaching psychopathology at the University of Lagos. And part of it has to do with substance abuse. Not too long ago, I was part of a group of 8 Africans nominated to undertake a special study in the US on substance abuse. So, when therefore we are talking about substance abuse, it is not only something that is out there, but rather it is something that is right here with us. And like Mr. Ame has already told you, it is something that pervades every aspect of society. And it is for that reason that it is called the Great Epidemic. But unfortunately, not many people know very much about this great epidemic or this issue of substance abuse. I must acknowledge the fact that the NDLA has done a lot by producing posters, but not everyone has all these posters. And apart from that, we do not have ready-made literature which can be referred to whenever there is problem, whenever one wants to make reference to aspects of drug abuse. So it is on that basis that the effort of Mr. Ikechukwu Odumodu should be commended for writing this book. The book is written in a simple, straightforward manner which can easily be understood by the average student. Well, I normally take the average student as the student in JS2. He is just starting, and if there is a book which a JS2 student can understand, you should expect that university students, those in SS3, will also be able to understand it. Now, this book has 5 chapters. It begins with chapter 1, which defines mainly the basic terminologies associated with drug abuse. Things like tolerance, psychological dependence, physiological dependence, and so on and so forth. Now, students need to know about all of these things. Particularly when we talk about tolerance, you get to know that the more you take a particular substance, a particular drug, the more your body adjusts to it and attempts to neutralize these substances. Eventually, you require more and more and more of it until it gets to a point where the individual may collapse as a result of overdose. So you therefore need this type of book to know about the various terminologies. Now the second chapter, he titled it The Gateway Drugs. And these include alcohol, include cigarettes, and so on and so forth. Now, the point has already been made by Mr. Ame. In our society, alcohol is not regarded as a drug. But from a professional point of view, alcohol is a drug. And to put it bluntly, palm wine, burukutu, pito, push me, push you, ogogoro, sapling water, name it. They are all drugs. As a matter of fact, alcohol has created more problems for people than heroin, than cocaine. Now, we have had cases where downfall drivers jump over the third mainland bridge into the lagoon. They must probably have taken excessive alcohol. Not likely to be cocaine, because cocaine is expensive and not everyone can lay hands on cocaine. But go to the backyard, you take a shot of ogogoro, you're number one. Or walk across, that is readily available. So alcohol is a drug. Let everyone take note of that. Both students and parents know that alcohol, in whatever form, call it beer, call it anything you call it, even the alcoholic wines, they are all drugs and they must be avoided. Now, so in that chapter, he also talked about cigarettes, where the consequences are very well known. Now, chapter 3 has to do with what he called the hard drugs. And then here he was talking about marijuana, that is Indian hemp, talking about cocaine and so on and so forth, and the consequences on the individual. Now, chapter 4 has to do with quitting the habits. He gave hints, like the barrister also said, added more to it, how to quit once you are into substance abuse. Hints about how to quit. Then finally, the last chapter has to do with processing the effects, social consequences, the consequences on the individual. So the book is therefore simple, straightforward, and written in a manner that can easily be understood by everyone. Above all, it is printed in a very, very attractive manner. But the inside, the print is quite okay. Then the illustrations are very well alright. It's illustrated. He used a symbolic figure in person of a parrot, who talks and talks and talks and talks. So the book is actually introduced by a parrot who narrated the stories of his own personal experience about the use of drugs and the consequences of drugs. So that again makes it very simple and very easily understood. Then in addition to that, you have a situation in which it is not particularly voluminous. So it is something that can easily be read, and within the shortest time possible, you get a gist of it. Now, like every book that is written, there are usually a little bit about commas here and there. Well, I'm expecting that in the next edition of the book, it will be enlarged to include things like how to recognize a drug abuser. Now, there are definite information, like for the information of parents, if you see your small boy or if you see your boy wearing sunshade at night, in the afternoon, at all times of the day, he may be using cocaine, or maybe using heroin, or maybe using Indian hemp. He uses Indian hemp because when you use Indian hemp, the eyeballs are normally red. So he puts on the sunshade to cover it up. Then when you use cocaine, the eyeballs are normally expanded. He looks like that. So in order to cover it up, so that he will not have too many questions, he puts on sunshade. Then when he uses heroin, the eyes are dim. He feels sleepy. He looks as if he's sleepy. And because he does not want any question from you, he puts on sunshade. When you walk into the room and you discover that your boy has just in the afternoon, he has just fitted share talks in the room, or your perfume, he has fitted it all over the whole place, begin to suspect that he's using Indian hemp. The reason is, he puts share talks after smoking Indian hemp. He knows that your nose is very sensitive. You are likely to detect that something is wrong. He uses Indian hemp, the share talks, to mask the odor of the Indian hemp. And so, in that case, you will not know. And then when he comes near you, much of the time he has in his mouth tom-tom. He's always licking tom-tom of the mate. It's an attempt to mask the odor of the Indian hemp that he has used, so that when he's talking to you, the odor will not come out. So these are several of the attempts by which you can recognize a drug abuser. And once you know that such a person is already abusing drugs, then the best opportunity is to avoid the person. Now, that notwithstanding, I recommend this book to principals who will need copies in their libraries, to individuals who actually desire to know more about drugs and who want to quit it as fast as possible, and at the same time to the Ministry of Education, and in particular the ACC that has done quite a fantastic job by launching this particular drug-free club. So the book is recommended to them, and I hope that members of the drug-free club in every school will also have copy. So the book is hereby recommended to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I know that we would not have expected.
Permit me to start by apologizing on behalf of my commissioner, the Honorable Commissioner for Education, Chief Adio Badmos, who is unavoidably absent due to other pressing matters of the state. Having done that, I now present his address and perform his duty. Your Excellency, the First Lady of Lagos State, Chief Mrs. Remi Tinubu, the special guest, the First Lady of Cross River State, Mrs. Bob Manuel Duke, the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Dr. Lekon Kwekon, other members of the Lagos State Executive Council, the wife of the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Mrs. Wurola Kwekon, permanent secretaries here present, chairpersons of local government councils, the representative of the MDLEA, heads of parastatals, directors here present, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It gives me great pleasure to be here today to formally launch the book titled The Great Epidemic, written on drug abuse and illicit drug trafficking by a young man, Ikechukwu Ojumodu. I would like to state that this launching is very timely for its incorporation into the Lagos State Drug Abuse Control Committee's relaunching of the Drug-Free Club in Lagos State Secondary School. It was over a year ago, must be vigorously pursued at all times. Our task now is the involvement of our youth, who are the leaders of tomorrow, in educative and morally challenging programs that will help them develop into responsible adults with the right values. It is in this light that I call on each Nigerian, young or old, to join hands in waging war against drug abuse and misuse, and also illicit drug trafficking and the activities of drug barons alike. It is pertinent to note that there is need to thoroughly educate our youth in this regard, so as to prevent a situation of peer group influence, which is usually responsible for many societal ills today. In this book, titled The Great Epidemic, the author has drawn on these life experiences at both the secondary and tertiary institutions he attended, more than on other facts. He had vivid encounters with luring into drug use by his peers in the secondary school, which eventually led to nefarious cult activities under the influence of drugs in tertiary institutions. I wish to emphasize the great epidemic to the glory of God and for the benefit of all our youth all over the country with the sum of 10,000 naira. I thank you all for listening and God bless.
Your Excellency, the First Lady of Lagos State, Chief Remi Tinubu, Your Excellency, the First Lady of Cross River State, Chief Mrs. Manuel G, the Honorable Commissioner for Education, Chief M. Agil Badmos, the Honorable Commissioner for Youth, Sports and Social Development, Mr. Olusegun Dawodu, the Chairman of this occasion is the person of the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Dr. Leke Biton, members of the Drug Abuse Control Committee, distinguished guests, students, ladies and gentlemen. When I picked up my pen to write this speech, vivid memories of the recent and distant past flowed through my mind as I stared at the sheet of paper on the table. In January 1998, I walked into the office of Mrs. I.E.E. Zoba, the Director of Community Development Services, NYC State Headquarters, Jos. My mission was to discuss with her my plan to write a book on drug abuse as part of my community development efforts. I remember her exact words. She said, and I quote, "My dear, I do not want to discourage you, but there are already many books on drug abuse lying on the shelves. The problem is that the children are not reading them." I smiled and replied, "Madam, that is exactly why I want to write this book. I want to produce something that these youths will enjoy reading." Almost this same conversation was repeated at the office of Mr. Ayo Peters Olowoniyi, then the Commandant of the NDLA Academy in Jos, but now the Commandant in charge of the NDLA outfit at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja. However, on both occasions and after explaining the approach I wish to adopt, they became interested and gave me all the assistance I needed. For this, I am most grateful. Those I have come in contact with have always wanted to know what exactly motivated me to write this book, especially when they learn that I studied chemical engineering. Always, I tell them my story. What is my story? As an adolescent youth, I was uninformed about the dangers of drug abuse. I saw cigarette smoking and alcohol consumption as special pleasures reserved for adults. Advertisements of cigarettes and alcohol on television and radio had a field day as they received no challenge in their assault of my highly impressionable adolescent mind. In my curiosity, I decided to experiment until I discovered I could no longer do without them. I had become an addict, a prisoner of my experimentation, but thank God I'm free now. However, the real scales fell off my eyes when I decided to move a step further up the scale by trying cannabis 9 years ago. My first attempt nearly ruined my life. It was that single experience that opened my eyes to the great dangers of drug abuse. Many have tried cannabis, but were not so lucky as to retrace their steps. These ones now languish in psychiatric hospitals
while some roam the streets as mad people. Having then received a new lease of life through my narrow escape, and having identified the vacuum created in my secondary school education due to the lack of education on dangers of drug abuse as the reason for my close shave with madness, I decided to write this book in the hope that these adolescent students do not make the same mistakes I made. I had my secondary school education in Federal Government College in Enugu. Then every session we were given both textbooks relevant